welcome to a special episode today. It is special because I have an amazing special friend, Anaida Poilievre, who's going to be sharing a lot of experiences, her story, but most important, we're here to uplift you, our good listener. Welcome, Anna.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Tony.
It's such a pleasure to have you. And you know what? I'm going to dive right into, I know we have a long history together, but I just want you to dive in right now on the journey. What led you to be here and your whole journey? Because you got an interesting journey.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So, yes, I was born in Caracas, Venezuela, and my family moved here in 1995. And we first arrived in Montreal, in the east end of Montreal, in a working class neighborhood. And so that's basically what I was raised. And my parents divorced, whatnot. Years later, I decided to move to Ottawa to go to university. I was 19 years old, and I did not even speak English back then. So I went to University of Ottawa in French, and about a year later, I started applying for government jobs. And that's when I got a call from the Senate of Canada, and I ended up getting a job there. It was a 1-month contract at the time. And I really, really worked hard. It was Senator Marcel Prudhomme, so it was in French, thankfully, because my English was not so great. And so I worked there for a month, and I just told myself, I'm going to do everything for this man to approve of me so that he can extend my contract. And so you name it, I would work extra hours, despite the fact that I was working full time. I have been financially independent since the age of 17.
That's incredible.
Yeah. So I come from, my dad was very hardworking. My parents divorced. My mom struggled a little bit. So we've had to be self-reliant, my siblings and I, since the age of 15, 17. I started working at McDonald's at 15. 17, I moved out, started being financially independent. 19, moved to Ottawa. Start working in the Senate of Canada in 2008 with just a 1-month contract. I got bills to pay. I have rent to pay. I have, food, everything. I had to rely on myself only, with a little bit of help from family when they could. But, we're immigrants. So everybody's trying to do their own life. As immigrants, you came here when you were like 13.
Yeah.
Parents, it's a struggle for them to adapt. So we sort of have to step up ourselves and take care of ourselves. And it's something we learn. So I got that job in the Senate, and somehow magically, not magically, with a lot of hard work, I should say, I built my own reputation. My contract kept being renewed. One thing led to another. Senator Prudhomme retired. Then another senator hired me, Senator Stratton, the government whip. I worked there once again really hard. Eventually graduated from university. I got a job as an executive assistant in the Senate for Senator Diane Bellemare, who was recently appointed. And then next thing you know, I was recruited by the leader of the Senate, Senator Claude Carignan, and I was working there as a parliamentary affairs advisor. And during, my time in the Senate, I would bump into this person called Pierre Poilievre. So we bumped into each other a few times over there at work. And eventually he asked me out. And
I remember.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes, he did ask me to.
Yeah.
He said he always ran into this beautiful, lovely Latin girl, and I'm like, well, just ask her out, And I remember that day he did. So yeah, tell us about that. Tell us about that.
So that was fun. So I met Pierre just bumping into each other, and eventually we were in the same elevator, and he had the courage to start talking to me, and then he asked me, "Do you have Facebook?" And I was like, no, I don't. And he knew I was lying. But then I had to think about it. I was a staffer in the Senate, mind you, so there was no conflict of interest. But he was a member of parliament. I knew who he was, right? So there was that dynamic that I wasn't sure about. And then after 24 hours, I sent an email and I said, okay, sure. Here's my contact. And then he invited me for coffee to Bottega, one of the best places that there is in Ottawa. If ever you're in Ottawa, you got to go to Bottega. Best Italian sandwiches, best coffee, best everything.
What a plug.
I just love them so much.
It's great.
We don't get paid for it. We just
true.
love the Nicastro family, Pat and Pasquale, we call him, and Rocco. And so then we went to Bottega. That breakfast coffee turned out into lunch 4 hours later. That was on a Friday.
Did he get a ticket or something?
He got a ticket.
Because I remember asking, it's like, it was so worth it. I got a ticket. I'm like,
He got a ticket. He did, because we were supposed to be there for what, an hour? You know, we
Yeah.
went there at 8 in the morning, and next thing you know,
you
it
can't
was
stay there an
noon.
hour. You got to stay more than that when you're
I
having lunch over there.
know. Next thing you know, it was noon. And as soon as he left, I'm walking back to the office, and then he just texted me, and he was like, I want to see you again. So that's when I'm like, I think it went well.
Nice.
So that was on a Friday, November 9th. And then on November 11th, we went for dinner near the airport, because he was going to catch a flight to go to Calgary. And we will go there, have dinner. Then he has to go to catch his flight. And then he tries to kiss me. I push back. I said, no, it's just our second date. So he goes to the airport. And then I started driving back home. I was living in Orleans with my dad. And then he texts me and he tells me, you made me miss my flight because you wouldn't kiss me. And I was like, what? So then I was like, okay. So the guy missed his flight. So he had to cancel some meetings that he had with some ministers and whatnot. So then I just text back and I was like, well, what are you up to now? I was like, well, I have no plans. I was supposed to be in an airplane. So then he said, let's see each other again. And then we met downtown Little Italy.
Mm-hmm.
And then I parked the car. And as soon as I parked the car, he was already there running towards me, and then grabbed me and kissed me.
That's incredible.
and then we went to the restaurant, and then he was like rubbing my back, and we were being,
And that takes a lot for Pierre.
It does.
Wow.
We were being very
impressed,
affectionate with each other. And so the waitress just looked at him, at us, and she said, you guys make a very cute couple. And so Pierre took his glasses off. He no longer has glasses, but at the time he did.
Good look.
Yes, he took his glasses off, and then he said, tonight is our first night as a couple. And that was it. So third date, 2 days, November 11, 2012. And now we have 2 kids.
Beautiful kids.
Thank
Beautiful
you.
kids.
Thank you.
Yes.
We've been married for, how long have we been married? 2017, so almost 7 years.
Amazing.
Almost 7 years in December, 2 kids. And he's the leader of the Conservative Party of Canada.
Yes.
And
our future prime minister too.
Thank you. God willing, yes.
But you know what? I mean, I've known Anna for a very long time, and she has a lot of great qualities. You do.
Thank you.
And, you know, the one thing that I'm super impressed is the drive, your loyalty. You got a lot, like, incredible person. And you just, you know, I don't meet a lot of people that say that they can't do stuff, you know, and I thrive on people that go through obstacles. You are that person. You know, when I look at you, I'm like if I'm going to war, I'm taking Anaida Poilievre with me. You know what I mean? It just, you're that person. And I tell a lot of people that, what was instilled, like, how did you become that, like, person?
I think life builds you as a person, right? I think we're all given our own journey. We're all handle our own cards, and there's obstacles through life, and it's how you handle the obstacles. You know, you can sit down there, you can think it's unfair, or you can look at the obstacle and look at as an opportunity for growth and build resilience with that. And my life has been one of obstacles from a young age, you know, without getting into too many personal things. You know, of course, parents' divorce, I think, has an effect on all children. Being immigrants, having to learn the language, having to rely on myself, because as immigrants, when my family came here, it was survival mode for everybody. My parents didn't speak the language. Financially, huge setback for us. They couldn't work at first. So all of that happened to impact me as a kid, because I had to grow up really, really fast, right? Then my parents divorced, of course, and then my mother struggled. And so by the age of 15, all of my siblings and I had to work. So we started working at McDonald's, all of us. It was our first job, which I think it's a great job for a kid, for a young teenager to have as a first job. It was all about hard work. And the moment that we started working, we started to have to be responsible, because we were living with our mother, and our mother, she just couldn't keep up with the financial demands or with her own health. And so we had to start paying for things ourselves. So I was 15 years old, and I was paying for my own shampoo, my own conditioner, my own tampons, like everything. And then one thing leads to another. Then I had to pay for my own education, because at the beginning of the year, there's like this fee. Even though school is free, there's this fee. You have to pay $100 or whatever it is. So we had to pay it for ourselves because she couldn't.
Hmm.
And then eventually became one of those things where you open the fridge and there's a few days left to the month and there's no food. And so you go and you buy food. So we were working at McDonald's not so that we can go to the movies and hang out with our friends and buy candy. It was literally just for responsibilities that we had to pay for.
Wow.
And so that started at a young age. So self-responsibility became something instilled in me very early on. Self-reliance, understanding that I depend on myself alone, right? And so I think like all of that, like my journey is what builds me as who I am. And I had to, for survival, learn to take the obstacles as a personal growth situation and look at it as an opportunity rather than a misfortune. So in a way, I feel so blessed for my
Yeah.
journey, because today where I am, it requires strength to be where we are, my husband and I, because there's a lot of ups and downs, a lot of external noises. And so we have to be able to rely on ourselves, our mental strength, and that willpower to continue moving forward on the mission that we have.
Wow. That's incredible. You know what? And I like the fact that you said about, taking that experience and turn into a positive, because that takes a lot of, courage. It takes a lot of understanding. It takes a lot of acknowledgement, and you were able to do that, and it shows. And, you spoke about, Pierre now in this role. And I remember, this guy that used to be in Barhaven used to come at the smoothie bar, and one of my instructors, I used to always ask him, like, who is this guy at the smoothie bar? He looks like he's 12 years old. And he's like, that's our MP. I'm like, what? This guy? Like, and I'm not really into the
He was
political stuff.
young. He was a young MP.
He was young, and he
Yeah.
was like,
He was the youngest elected member of parliament at the time in 2004.
yeah. And he was like, and this kid was so driven. So, I invited him for a workout, and I saw his work ethics, and I always, again, like, you guys just share such a great balance.
But that's why we connected, right? Because I'm talking about my journey, but one needs to understand that Pierre too has his journey.
Yes.
And nothing was handed to Pierre. He comes from a very humble beginnings as well, two school teachers, and he himself too, he had to work for everything.
Right. So, yeah, and I could see that. I could see that. I mean, you see it in the gym. You see all his work ethics. So now, how do you deal now, because your world's done like a whole 180? I mean, obviously Pierre's in this high role where, like, the whole country is behind him.
Yes.
And so they should be. And it's like now all of a sudden your life is just like, it's real. Like, it's in that political higher state, let's call it. Like, how do you deal with an everyday life now, just getting into it right now so far, like the balance, like maybe share some of that. I mean, you've got to make some changes in your life.
Yeah. I have to say, I take a lot of inspiration from my own husband, because he's very, very strong. But I see the behind the scenes that a lot of people don't see. And so I see how he gets to build his strength. And to build the strength, it's in so many ways, right? You have to nourish your mind, your body, your soul. Those are all the things that you need. You need to build yourself as a foundation before you can tackle any extreme challenge out there in life.
Right.
So I look at Pierre, and he cares so much about what he puts in his body, the food. He eats very healthy, extremely high in protein, almost non-existent when it comes to carbs and sugar. He trains with the best, Tony Greco. And he cares about that, right? If you're going to feel mentally strong, you have to also have the body to carry that.
Yeah.
So for him to work out, to be able to release that, to feel strong, it also plays with the mind. It's very crucial. And all of the other things that, of course, the serotonin and all of those chemicals and the balance that are really crucial for that. So I look at Pierre. So he eats really well. He trains. And he also nourishes the mind. So, of course, he reads a lot. And he reads a lot about, the economy and things that he needs to be very knowledgeable for his field, for his job. But the other thing that's really interesting is that he reads about other things like personal growth through stoicism. So there's this book, Marcus Aurelius,
Okay.
Meditations from Marcus Aurelius. So Stoicism, it's a philosophy where you focus on the things that you can control and you accept the things that you cannot control. And it's about rational thinking and to develop that emotional strength and to have that inner peace despite of all of the things going around you. And so Pierre was reading a lot about Stoicism. He was reading Meditations by Marcus Aurelius, and that inspired me. And so I started reading about Stoicism, and one of my favorite books, which is basically what I was saying earlier about obstacles,
Mm-hmm.
it's called The Obstacle is the Way from Ryan Holiday.
Okay.
And Ryan Holiday is the one I think who has brought Stoicism mainstream. And he talks a lot about that, and he has so many books. And so with all of that, that's how I'm capable of handling this, because Pierre has all of these leadership skills. And here I am at home and I get to watch him. And I'm like, okay, how am I going to tackle this? Well, I just look at him, how he's tackling it. You know, he's the perfect recipe for that. So I'm just following all of the ingredients.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And we're a team. We do this together. So if we don't do it together as a team, it would be extremely difficult.
Right.
Because it's yin and yang. Sometimes he is the one who's really strong and picks me up, and sometimes I'm the one who's very strong. And when things are difficult, I'm there to lift him up too. And we stay focused. We stay focused on what matters, and that is our family.
Yeah.
Family is what matters the most.
And I admire that because you guys do an amazing job. I've witnessed it. I've been around you, and I'm going to shift gears to Pierre, but I am going to come back
Yes.
to you. But you know, we're talking about Pierre now since we're talking about him. But I got to admit, like, I mean, this was this geeky guy that I met almost 26 years ago, and I didn't know anything about politics, and I don't get impressed too easy. But every time I learn so much from him, you know, because he's kind of my mentor in public speaking. He's helped me a lot with the speeches. And I see his work ethics too. Like, I'm like, how could this guy, you know, who looked like this geeky guy at the beginning and come in and, you know, do these kind of weights and push these weights. And it's like, he's so smart, not just mentally and physically. Like one time I even brought him to play hockey, one game. And he's like, oh, I'm okay. And anyways, he put his equipment on first shift. The guy scores top shelf. I'm like, what the heck? He's like, I really don't, you know, I'm not that great. I'm like, no, you are. Like, this was obviously little men's league, but he came out once and I was impressed. So it's like everything he does, he goes in like 1,000%.
Yes.
And that, you know, takes like, it just takes a certain human being to do that. So how do you feel that in him when he's all in like that? Because I mean, I just, like I said, like he'll do like 100-pound dumbbells. And it's like most guys, if they're saying there's no way this guy's going to do 100-pound dumbbells, he does it. Like people ask me, they're like, can this guy box? I'm like, yeah, he actually can box. And I'm not just saying
really
that.
Good.
He's really good, you know, and he'll study, he'll practice, he'll work like, you know, day and night. And I always tell people, this is one of the biggest things why I admire him, is that he's the only guy I know that works at his craft more than anybody else. I have a lot of athletes here. They work hard over the summer and, you know, to complete their craft. He is nonstop work on his craft. Like it's over the top. And I tell people, I say, look, this guy could have got a job working for any company and they would pay him tons of money, but you know, he wants to make a difference. And there's no other guy that I know that works that hard. As a matter of fact, if you see him even in the House of Commons, a guy stands up and he talks to the opposition and never looks down on his notes. Like I hear that
That's
from
a lot
people.
Of hard work.
It is, right? So like maybe tell us his preparation and all this. Give us a little bit of secrets for our listeners here. Like maybe we can get some people to
preparation. It's all about preparation, right? But I think also Pierre has a perfect balance between self-confidence and self-criticism. So you have to be confident in life and able to, you know, take on big challenges and do the things and put yourself out there. It's not easy, right? But you also have to be self-critical in order to be able to improve in life. So Pierre is actually his toughest critic as well. And for him to be able to look within and look at things, how can I do this better? How can I be more knowledgeable? How can I get stronger? He studies everything. It's preparation. So when you watch him in the House of Commons and it's a 35-second that they have to respond. And Pierre has no notes and he's very quick on his feet. What people don't see is that that has been years of preparation, right? Because it's all the knowledge and all the hard work that he has accumulated through the years.
Mm-hmm.
And he's always sitting at his desk and reading carefully, analyzing, and really looking into things and really being very critical about himself and how he can do things better. And it's the old saying of 1% better every day, right? Another book that makes me think of that, it's James Clear, Atomic Habits. It's all the little habits, all the little things that you do every day, and you get 1% better every day. It has an incredible compound effect, right? Like when you put your money and it starts building interest on top of interest on top of interest, right?
That's a good analogy.
And so that's the same thing with Pierre. It just every day he just works at his craft and he just keeps on getting better and better and better.
I love that. I love the daily disciplines, and overcoming those
That's
challenges.
right.
Okay, I'm going back to you, Anna. When Pierre won that Conservative party leader, he did steal the show, but really you stole the show. That speech, and people, told me, and I witnessed it. It was just unbelievable. You just went out there, and it's like, I mean, like you were the show. Like there was just so much energy. Tell us about that moment and how you just, I don't know, what did you do to get up on stage? And like, that's like, going to an AC/DC concert and then all of a sudden the backup band overtakes the show. Like what happened? Tell us about that. It was an incredible speech.
Thank you for
so
that.
Good.
Well, it's a speech that I had given multiple times because I was on the road with Pierre during the leadership race. And he just asked me to introduce him. And I just looked at him and I was like, well, what do I say? And he's, well, just say your story. And Pierre is really good at making me feel good, Pierre is very good at lifting me up, making me feel strong and confident. He likes a strong woman. And so he asked me for the leadership night when they announced the results, should I win, would you be okay with introducing me? So I thought about it. I wasn't sure because I knew that it's a big show. It's a national television, right? But, I too have a little bit of self-confidence, thank God. I had to work on it. I do. I had to work on it, but I do. And so when I went on that stage, I don't know. I just forgot it was just my story. My family was there. They were all sitting on the first row.
Yeah, it was so real.
My family, his family. And it just came from the heart. It was just something that I've said over and over and over. And I don't know, it just happened.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Thank you.
And we're gonna post the link down below. So if you haven't heard this speech, you should go because it was awesome.
Thank you.
I mean, my two girls were just like in tears, like, oh my God, that was so good. It was just.
Well, I've known them since so young.
I know. It was just so. It was so good. It was so good.
Thank you.
We're gonna shift gears to community.
Yes.
In the community, I mean, you've taken a lot of roles now. I'm sure you've been approached by so many people. What are you doing in the community now? Maybe share some of the stuff that you've been working on.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that. So to go back to earlier when I was talking about my past, I was a parliamentary affairs advisor to the leader of the Senate. And part of my job was to oversee what was happening in the Legal and Constitutional Affairs Committee, which is a committee in the Senate that looks at all the changes to the criminal code. And so when we were doing that, there's this legislation, Bill C-36, that is known as PSEPA, the Protections for Communities. It's a legislation that had to do with all the laws revolving prostitution and human trafficking. So that when that moment happened in 2014, that summer, it really had an impact on me because I did not understand and realize that human trafficking was something happening in Canada. When we talk about human trafficking, people often think it's something that happens in a third world country like Venezuela, where I'm born from, or Brazil, or Cambodia. I wouldn't think it would happen in Canada. And when we think human trafficking, we also sometimes confuse it with human smuggling, which is just taking people from third world countries, bringing them here, and taking advantage of them. But what I've learned is that actually, between 80 to 90% of the victims of human trafficking are actually Canadian citizens. And what I've
Wow.
learned is that it happens in Canada, and it happens at a very, very big scale. And we can't even track it because a lot of the survivors never come forward, because some of them don't even realize that they're in a situation where they have been trafficked, because it can often start with the story of the so-called boyfriend that eventually pimps you out,
Right.
convinces you. So you think you're doing it out of your own choice. And how can you think that this person that you love is trafficking you?
Wow.
So I had the opportunity to learn a lot about it. And so when the night of the leadership night, when my husband won and I was on stage, I actually vividly remember thinking about that and telling myself that, you know what, my husband allowed me this opportunity of introducing him, which gave me a little bit of a platform.
Mhm.
So I want to use my platform to shed the light on human trafficking and what's happening here in Canada, because we need to tackle this in our own backyard. These are our daughters, our sisters that are being trafficked, and it can happen to anyone.
Oh yeah.
This is not like, I mean, disproportionately, Aboriginal women are represented disproportionately, over 50%, but it can happen to anyone. Like when we were doing the study on Bill C-36 in 2014, that same year, there was a ring that got caught here in Ottawa. Over 140 young women here in Ottawa that were trafficked from places like Barrhaven, Canada.
Wow.
It's
I didn't
very
know that.
big. Yeah, it's very big. And I mean, I'm glad you're saying you don't know that, because that's exactly what I want to be doing. I want to shed the light on that issue. So I'm hoping to be more vocal about it. I am sharing stories of survivors on my social media. We'll continue doing so.
That's
And
incredible.
if
That's
you
really good.
know, thank you. If you know of someone, or if there's someone that wants to share this story with me, please have them contact me. I would love to use my platform to allow them to share their stories.
Wow. That's really good. You know what? I had no idea there was that many
Yeah, so
there
if
is
you wouldn't mind following the social media for that, not necessarily mine, but it's called at their stories matters underscore. Their
okay.
stories matter
And we
underscore.
and we and we can put that down
Thank
below
you.
so that way people can follow. Okay, well we'll continue talking about leadership, women in leadership. Like
Yes.
what's your take on that? You know, just you're hearing it more and
Yeah.
more now. And
Well,
I mean, I always said if I had to open another corporation, a big one, I'd probably have a woman run my association. And the reason why is I think just from the past, this is just me speaking, is you pay attention to details. You kind of step back. I think the testosterone in men is a little bit more. I talk to a lot of CEOs, and they're pounding their table on the table like kind of mid afternoon, trying to make their deadline and just really trying to control everything. And I think women have really taken that power lately to like just really take it to the next level.
I think we live in an interesting era for women. I think that, we've been blessed that so many other women before us have been breaking all the barriers for us, where now we have the situation that you can take the opportunity and have basically the best of everything, in a sense that you can choose to be fully focused on your career as a woman, or you can choose to be slowly focused on your family, or you can try to mingle both and balance both. I mean, we're in a situation where really women are in control, where they can choose their own journey, their own path. And I think that that's something wonderful. Of course, it comes with still challenges. I still think that women are the default parent often, not because the father does not want to, but it's just nature, right? Like I
Right.
remember during the leadership race, when Pierre announced baby Cruz was like 6 months or something like that, because it was February. And I wanted to be there for my spouse, and I wanted to be part of the leadership race too. So, like, I remember having my 6 month old baby at home that was breastfeeding, and then all of a sudden going on the road. So I'm like, how do I do this? Right. So I remember we were like in this minivan on the road going somewhere in Northern Ontario. And I'm sitting at the back, and it's all full of guys, like my husband and our team. And I just grabbed the last row of the minivan at the back, put a blanket on, and had like my little pump so that I can like pump my milk,
That's so
so that
you,
I can
Anna.
then put it in a little cooler
I
to make
love
sure
it.
that I brought the breastfeed milk for my little boy. And
Love it.
it was just trying to do it all, right? Trying to do it all. So we're in the situation. So I think that women, we have become incredibly good at multitasking, balancing things, being capable of choosing and prioritizing things. And we're blessed for that. And I think that we need more and more women in this leadership role because of that reason. We bring something different to the table, different views. So it's yin and yang. Like, I think we balance each other out. So I think men, women working together, it's a beautiful thing. And that's actually something else I want to do as part of my journey with the platform I have, is to continue elevating women out there and also bring their stories and ask women that have forged the path in something interesting, how can we help other women to also come up with us and lift them up with us? So if my story can inspire others, if I have a piece of knowledge, if I have, a Rolodex, and I can connect that woman with another woman that has done it and that they can help each other out, I think that that's a beautiful thing. And so that's something that I'm going to be working on, and I'm hoping to have a project that I get to launch soon so that we can help other women, bring
That's
them in
awesome.
leadership.
That's awesome. That's our future first lady. Okay. Speaking about that, we have the election coming up. I mean, it's not far before, it approaches us. And you know what? You're smiling. You're so humble. We went to see the concert together the other night. You're like, so just you're Anna. I tell people, like, yeah, they're like, even my buddy's like, yeah, like, she's so cool. She's so down to earth. I'm like, well, what do you want her to be? Like, that's who she is, right? She doesn't forget where she came from, and that's just who she is. She's cool. And it's like, yeah, I can't believe it. Everybody says the same thing.
Thank you.
And you have two beautiful kids. You got Pierre that works and he's on the road majority of the time. Like, how do you balance everything and keep that glow on your face? Like, that's like, how do you do it?
I take inspiration from Pierre, like I said. So I too, I like I said, I grab he has like the perfect recipe. So I'm just grabbing all of the ingredients. I'm taking good care of myself. I went on a diet too. I eat better. I've been working out consistently.
You look great.
Thank you. Thank
you always
you.
look great, but you look great. You know what I mean?
Thank you. Yeah, I've been working out consistently. Working out. You're the one who's been leading my husband and I in this journey for so many years now, and
thank you.
Like, working out and eating well, and I like to read a lot, like the books that I recommended earlier about personal growth. And really, the most crucial thing is to surround yourself with people that want your well-being, that are in addition to your life. And for me, of course, I've been incredibly blessed with a good family. So my family is there. My uncle, my aunt, Tia Maria, Tio Pablo, they've been helping me to take care of the kids when I go on the road with my husband, because I think it's important. There's like this pillar of me being a mother, so being there for my children, super, super important. I am a wife, being there for my husband, it's really important. That's the foundation of our family. It's our marriage, what happened, and then the kids happen. So to be there for my husband too is extremely important to me. So I like going on the road with him, being a support system for the both of us. But then there's also Anna. There's also Anaida. What do you do? And well, this is what I do. I'm doing this on my own with
love
you.
Love it.
So work on my own things, my own projects, the things that matter to me. So it's like wearing like 3 different little hats and balancing things out. I think like that's how it should be.
Yeah, and that's awesome. A great recipe. You're balancing everything. Now, I'm sure along the way you probably had some obstacles. Even maybe friends or acquaintances that were kind of there and now are not there, because that usually happens once you kind of get to that level where a lot of people have a hard time understanding. Like, I mean, I remember I used to get calls all the time. Hey, can you text Pierre and do this? I'm like, well, no, I'm not going to do that. Like, this guy's on the road trying to run our country. Why would I distract him and, send him a text about this? So, and then it's like, you're like, well, what, you can't do that? Like, and then some people kind of cut you off, right? So you have those. And I guess at the end, you just got to like accept the people that really understand everything. Now, you probably had some of that obstacle in your transition with this whole new venture that you guys are taking on, or did you have any of that?
I wouldn't say much of that. I think that just because of my journey in my life, I've been fairly good at how I surround myself, and I've been picking my personal life in terms of who I bring in, and I've always been very focused on family, so my family has always been very present. So I haven't had much of that in that sense, but I've also worked so much on myself of learning to have boundaries. So I never allow it to get to that level because of that reason. I've always been picky about who I allow into my life.
That's so important.
So to begin with, I've never been much of a superficial friendship type of person.
Yep.
That doesn't mean that I don't have a lot of acquaintances. I have a lot of acquaintances. I like to go out and meet new people, and I like to learn from people. But I also know and understand that there's a difference between an acquaintance and the love and the support you'll get from your family,
Right.
or from very close friendships that I consider, the Greco family and an amazing close family to us. So I haven't had much of that, luckily. But
Yeah.
what I would have to say on the topic, that it's really important for people to say that it's okay to have boundaries. It's important to have boundaries. And if you are in that situation, which actually that's happened to me at a very personal level, it's okay to cut anything toxic out of you. If there's people that are toxic, it's okay to cut them out of your life, regardless of their title, regardless if it's a close friend, a family member. You have to do what you have to do for your inner peace, and that's where the whole meditation aspect too comes into place.
Right.
Inner peace first,
Right.
it matters.
Yeah, and your account, Pretty and Smart.
Yes.
I love it. I love it. I like the motivational stuff because you seem to like dig into some of the stuff. Like I even love reposting the stuff because I love the motivational stuff that you research. So what can you tell someone that's kind of been up and down, it's gone through obstacles, probably been told they can't do it, and just kind of like how would you get that person uplifted based on what you've kind of read, and you read a lot of books, and now you're really into this whole wellness and lifestyle change, which is great. Like, how would you uplift that person?
Self-talk. It starts with self-talk. It starts with how you talk to yourself, right? So self-talk matters. I talk to myself a lot, in a way. We all do. So how you talk to yourself, how you push yourself, and that love yourself unconditionally, but still also push yourself. Like, the sky is the limit.
Right.
Whatever situation you're born to, whatever situation you're currently in, it doesn't have to be that way forever. And it's funny, I was cleaning my office. I redid my whole office, and I was cleaning, and I found my agenda from when you were in high school. And you go through the pages, and like your little boyfriend at the time and your friends. And then I started seeing this quote that I saw like 8 times in my agenda. And it said, "You don't have to become another statistic." And it was written everywhere. And I'm like, here I am. Like, I was 16, 17 at the time when I wrote that. And I'm trying to think, what did I mean by that?
Right.
And I was like, oh, yeah, you don't have to become another statistic, because of where I was. My mother was on welfare, and it was struggles at home, and it was survival all the time in my teenager years. And I always had the mentality of, the sky's the limit. The sky's the limit. Whatever you want, you go and get it. And I always talked to myself in that positive tone. And then I realized that you have to nourish the brain, you have to nourish the mind. So I would definitely tell that person, so the way you talk to yourself matters. Understanding that the sky is the limit, regardless of your situation, you can go ahead and get ahead regardless of what you think is setting you back. And I would read books like Ryan Holiday, The Obstacle is the Way, where you learn to see obstacles and challenges as opportunities for growth, for personal growth. And again, read books like 1% Better every day. So you just need to get 1% better every day.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to go to the gym for an hour.
Right.
You just have to go for a 10-minute walk.
Yeah.
You
That's
just
so
have
true.
to, and it compounds. And be patient. Be patient. When you read about the most successful people out there, whether it's Oprah Winfrey, Martha Stewart, you find out that they didn't hit it big until they were like 40 or 50. So be patient with yourself too.
That's great information. So is there any regrets? Do you have anything?
Hashtag no regrets. No, I don't think anyone should live a life with regrets. I think you have to take everything as a learning curve and move forward.
I love that. That's really good. I love that. Okay, we're winding down here. The
Yes.
future now is coming. Tell us how that kind of looks like. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I know the election's coming up, but let's fast forward. How does that future look like for you?
Well,
is there any
for
changes?
me,
Like, how does it look like?
well, for me, the reason why we're doing this as a team, my husband and I, is that we want a better future for the country. Like the future looks brighter should things go the way we're hoping for them to go on October 2025, if that should be the date, hopefully before that. But we're positive here, and we think that the future looks bright, and we're going to continue fighting for that, and we're going to continue doing it as a team. I'm going to continue being myself, my authentic self, continue juggling being a mother, being a wife, and just being a little Anaida, just myself, and working on the things that I care about. And I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur. So I'm hoping that I can also continue my own journey aside of my husband's journey and still support him and my family along the way.
I love it. And I know that you'll always be that person. I just know you too well. And we're going to wind down here and just close out our interview. So we're going to have all the links down below. So that way, if any of our listeners want to go to the link, and then you could send stuff to Anna. What is the best way for them to get a hold of you or your team?
My Instagram, honestly, on my Instagram, all my information is there. There's a little biography. You can sign up for my newsletter. There's also my email in there if you want to get in touch for other opportunities. My Instagram is the best way, at Pretty and Smart Inc.
So that'll end our interview with my lovely friend, mother, great person. You really did an amazing job. That's
my first
incredible.
podcast.
Are you serious?
First podcast.
That was unbelievable. I'm sure we're gonna get you back on again because you're awesome, and you're just a natural, and you're real. It's always great to interview people that are real, that don't have to make things up, and can share their stories. So I really admire that, and we'll take our leave. Thank you so much, Anna, our future First Lady. Trust me.